Hello, my friends, and welcome to this very special collaboration hop with TapeRunner.com. I'm Sean with Manly Made Minute, and I am so glad you are joining us today because this one's going to be very special. We're able to feature TapeRunner and see how this is like the perfect collaboration for Kendra's card challenge because we do so much gluing and taping and piecing together pattern paper that using TapeRunner is the perfect collaboration. So I'm super excited to show you a sketch today on how good this TapeRunner is and a couple different ways you can use it on building layers and building these sketches with Kendra's card challenge. I'm going to show you my pattern paper and what I'm going to do with it because it's got a special piece in there that I'm using for sketch number 7. So I want to show you that first, show you the TapeRunner that we're going to use, and so you just kind of see what it looks like. We're using the permanent tape, acid-free TapeRunner, and then we're going to go from there. Before I do that, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. Would love to have you follow me here on YouTube and on Instagram at Madly Made Minute. I've got design team stuff. I've got card challenges. I've got card hops. You name it. Would love to have you follow along. And we also have a special discount for you today. And you can save 10% on TapeRunner.com. I have partnered with Kelly Davis from TapeRunner. She's on the design team over there, and she's my partner in crime for this collaboration. And if you use that Kelly D10, Kelly D10, you're going to get 10% off your purchase at TapeRunner.com. So just make sure when you check out, you're going to use her affiliate link, Kelly D10, and you're going to get that 10% off. All right, let's head down to my table cam. Let's take a look at a couple things, and then we're going to assemble sketch number 7 for you today. All right, TapeRunner. I have a 5-pack of the acid-free permanent TapeRunner. And if you've never used TapeRunner before, they all will come in a similar case like this. All right, and then to use it, you're going to remove this cover. All right, and all you're doing is rolling this on. So I'm just going to grab a piece of scratch paper here, and to apply this I am just running this on, rolling this on. It's double-sided, so it's going to stick down, and you can kind of see my 2 strips right here. That light is, there we go, there's 2 strips, double-sided, so it sticks to the, and it also sticks this way and it sticks to the paper, so you've got double-sided. This is the permanent. You're going to want to use permanent if you don't want to adjust and move things around and different things. Once it sticks, right? So permanent's going to put my stuff in place. That's the key. Permanent when you're applying and putting things all in place. Then I want to show you, I'm using one of my all-time favorite paper pads, and it's Sweet Friend by Brutus Monroe. Brutus Monroe is also a sponsor with us this year for Kendra's Card Challenge, and I'm also on their design team as well. This is one of my all-time favorite paper pads for anything vintage. I'm using their paper pad because if you look at sketch number 7, and I'll show you here in a second, you've just got all these little half-inch strips. Well, guess what? His paper pad comes with a sample page of every paper that you're going to have in here, and guess what? These are 1/2 inch. I'm going to use the different pattern paper here to fill my card on sketch number 7, and I'm going to use these strips and customize it versus using my 6 pieces of pattern paper, 6x6, and cutting it up and getting my strips I need. I'm just going to use this and customize it to sketch number 7. All right, I'm going to cut these up, get this ready, and we're going to assemble this sketch for you. Okay, my friends, you can see I've cut out my strips now from that Brutus Monroe paper, and we're going to lay it down according to sketch number 7. Throw that up on the screen here for you. You see I'm going to lay those strips down, but what I've done is I've cut a scratch piece of paper at the same size as that white base, and I've recreated that white base, showing it here in a second. So it's 4 by 5 1/4, so that I can lay these out and then cut that and then lay this on the rest of my card. What I'm also going to do is I've cut strips at 1/2 inch so that I can get some dimension on these strips and just lay them up slightly and then show you another way to use this tape. So I'm going to start at the bottom, and I'm going to throw this one up on 2 strips. And I just cut these to size at a 1/2 inch. Slightly under 1/2 inch, just so that I wouldn't see it over, peeking from behind. And here's the cool thing when you're using a tape runner, is when you're doing stuff like this for dimension, you don't get the wetness, you don't get the bulk that you would in the warping and different things that you would from a glue. Especially when you're just, we've seen, and I do this all the time, when we do this with sentiments, for example, rather than using glue, you can layer this up with your tape runner and not get the bulk and the wetness and the warping. All right, next one, I'm not going to put on a dimensional because I just want this up and down texture. Okay, next one here, I'm just going to put up on 1. I'm just random, I'm just going to randomly give this some dimension so that they're just not all at the same level. So 1 up on that one, and then tape that down. Okay, then next one, I think I'm going to go 2 up again. Let's go 3 up on that one, why not? So I'll put this one up on 3. It's 1. Oh, I mean, not in camera here. Sorry about that. Looked up, but I'm not realizing I'm not in focus. All I'm doing is throwing these up on these strips. So I get the back side of it. Rolls on really nice. Again, remember, permanent is going to have a little extra stick than a removable. A removable is going to allow you to reposition until you get it in place. So I did 3 up on that one. I'm going to go none on this one. Like so. Then my sentiment, and I'm going to wait on my sentiment. Well, maybe I'll throw it in there. Yeah, let's just throw that in there. We're going to throw this one up on a couple too. I'll throw this up on 2 strips. And I'm just using my 1/2 inchers. So it just stays tucked behind my sentiment. Like so. And then just trim those down. And then line that sentiment up on the edge. And again, we'll cut that. We'll tweak that once I cut this at an angle to match. And then just make sure that your edge lines up there. Gives it just a little bit of bounce back and forth. I'm going to go back down with none on this one, and we'll throw those last couple up on some dimensionals. Not dimensionals. Oh, I guess they are dimensionals if you want to call these. Let me get my head in here for 1 second so I don't tuck that behind too far. There we go. Because I don't want it to tuck behind. If you're putting this up on dimensionals and you don't line that up real good, just make sure you're not tucking behind so it still lays out on your design really nice and fills where it's supposed to fill, so you don't short yourself, if that makes sense. Because once you pop these up, and if it doesn't cover that full behind, you're going to have space where you might end up having you might end up tucking by accident. I'll throw 2 here. Also, think about it this way. This is such a great way to. All I did for my craft paper here, and I use craft because it kind of will. If it shows on the sides, it'll kind of match my other paper. But what a great way to use up some scraps by using this as your dimensionals. Oh, I love that. If you feel that, it's got that rough up and down. I just love it. Takes that simple design that you would just, normally, think outside the box of, versus using regular dimensionals. And this gets a nice solid kind of feel, right? We're going to go 2 here, I think. Let's just do 2. Like so. Little overlap there, so we'll just trim that little overlap off. Perfect. And then I'm going to just go 1 on this one at the very top. So we'll trim that off. And because this has some thickness to it now with the tape and my extra paper, I'm going to take a guillotine and I'm just going to cut from this corner and cut my angle down to this corner. Because you'll have a little bit of gap here, as you can see in that design. So I'm just going to cut from corner to corner with my guillotine. And then I'll come back and we'll assemble this card for you. Okay, you can see I've used my guillotine to cut my edge. I want to show you. It didn't quite even up, so what I took is just an green alcohol marker, and I just used it to kind of fill in my little corners and shadow that just a little bit. So I could have just went over a little bit more, but I didn't want to rip my paper and try to recut it one more time. So we're going to set that aside. This I'm adding as an extra element on this card, and I'm going to show you, and then I'll just cut to after I'm done. But I took this out and I cut this 3 times to do the same thing that I did with these and just put some extra layers on here. So for the bottle, for example, we're going to take my TapeRunner and I'm going to add 3 layers to this. I want some bulk to this without using any I want the thickness without going too thick like I would have to do with like a foam dimensional or something, right? And again, you could totally use a foam dimensional for these, just depending on what you wanted to do. But this would be that same technique that you would do like with sentiments, right? If you're going to layer up some sentiments just to give them a little extra beef without going too thick. And so that's why I thought I would show you here as if you were doing sentiments, and I'm just doing this with my elements for this card of getting 3 layers behind here to get some bulk on that. I'm going to finish these flowers and leaves, and then we'll assemble this card for you. All right, we are ready. Let's assemble sketch number 7 here for you. Here's that piece that we laid out, cut at a diagonal, and so I'm going to use my TapeRunner. It's got a little thickness to it because of all the layers I did on it. I'm just going to give this a little extra TapeRunner on there just to get some good adhesion so that that sticks, because it's got that little extra bulk, but not much. It's really truly not that much extra bulk. Line those edges up, and this is off just a tiny bit. That could be just from my lining up. So I'm going to just trim that off just a tiny bit, and guess what? Nobody's going to know any different when you submit your sketch. Now I did that back piece, which is my 5.5 by 4 1/4 in some craft. So I just want to give this a little extra something with this vintagey kind of feel. So I'm just edging this out, which I always tend to do with when I'm using distress and vintagey stuff. So I'm just going to edge out with some walnut stain here on this layer. And this is that back layer, which is that gray layer in your sketch. Like so. Okay, my white layer in my sketch, I took a white piece of cardstock. I ink blended 3 different distress inks. I water splattered it. Then I did some brown and some gold splatter to kind of match my little theme here. And use that as that layer. Glued this on, and we're going to add a little element on here that I showed you that we were layering up all those die cuts. And I will put everything in the description for you of everything I've used. This was a die cut from Brutus Monroe. I'm just going to stand up so I can get that nice and centered the best I can here without getting my head in there too much. This tape, I will tell you, has some grip. I actually got it on my glass mat. I had to use some alcohol and a razor blade to get it off, so nothing was sticking on it. So I will tell you, it has some grip. All right. to finish this card off, I'm going to add one little element, and that's all my pieces. This has some bulk, you guys. I layered 3 pieces of each with TapeRunner on here, and so it's got some bulk to it. And what I'm going to do with this one is I am going to pop this one up on some dimensionals to get this to pop up off my card. This is thick enough that I probably wouldn't use TapeRunner for something this heavy and this thick. You could, but I would just be concerned it's a little bulky. And this way I have a little extra pop. This, if you run your finger, it's going up and down because of all those layers I put on there, so you've got great texture on this card. With just a nice, simple, little vintagey vibe to it with a little miss you sentiment. Sentiments from Brutus and Rowe, and I'll put all that in there as well for the description for you. Let's just make sure I get that nice and straight. There's sketch number 7. All assembled with TapeRunner, except I glued this down with some dimensionals. This whole card is with TapeRunner. Not a lot of bulk to it, except for those extra pieces of paper that you can see on the side go up and down a little bit, right? That is sketch number 7. All right. Thank you all so much for hanging with me. This is a card hop, so please go visit the rest of our team members from Kendra's Card Challenge and our counterparts that are joining us for this hop from TapeRunner.com. And don't forget, you get a 10% discount at TapeRunner.com by using my dear friends Kelly Davis's Kelly D10 for her discount at 10%, and you're not going to be disappointed. Get the TapeRunner Permanent Acid Free. The one I got was a nice 5-pack that looks like this, and you'll have some TapeRunner to use on these Kendra card challenges, and you can assemble these with no problem whatsoever. Again, thank you, TapeRunner, for partnering with Kendra's Card Challenge. We appreciate you. Thank you, my dear friend Kelly, for partnering with me and exchanging our discounts for our viewers. And I look forward to the next time that we can work together. All right, you all. Thank you all so much. And until next time, I'll see you then.